Hey there, Alyssa. I'm really sorry for leaving you alone all this time. Mommy and Daddy are here now, and we're going to be together from now on, sweetie. Alyssa and I were completely shocked when my brother and his wife suddenly showed up out of the blue. We hadn't heard from them in 7 whole years. We were speechless, wondering what they could possibly want after all this time. They thanked me for looking after Alyssa and then dropped a bombshell. They wanted Alyssa to come live with them. Their words felt thoughtless, like they had no clue about the struggles we've been through these past 7 years. Anger boiled up inside me. Alyssa, you've grown up so much, just like my own daughter. Let's be a happy family together with Daddy and me. I love you so much, my brother said, trying to act all loving and fatherly. But Alyssa surprised us all with her response. Huh, and who are you? The real reason behind their sudden appearance was shockingly selfish. They didn't seem to care about Alyssa's feelings at all. I'm not the same person I was before. I'm going to make my own choices and take charge of my life, so I can't be with you guys, Alyssa firmly declared, rejecting her parents' unreasonable demands. My niece's words sent my brother and his wife into a rage. Their lives had changed drastically in the past 7 years, and they'd made a big mistake. But for Alyssa, this was the beginning of her true happiness. They thought they were about to have a heartwarming family reunion, but the reality was far from it. My name is Charlotte. I got married 3 years ago and live with my 1-year-old daughter and husband. We run a pastry shop together, and our mornings start very early. Our days are busy with a few days off, but we spend our leisure time as a family. One hot July day, we were enjoying playing in a shallow creek at the park. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was a call from my brother. We weren't close, especially after our parents passed away a few years ago. We hardly ever spoke. I hesitantly answered the call. Hey, Charlotte, how are you? Long time no see. My brother's tone hadn't changed, light and carefree. Our personalities are complete opposites. I've always disliked my brother for his irresponsibility and carelessness. He seemed to have a steady job after getting married, but before that, he never held down a serious job and relied on our parents. I never saw him put in real effort. I just couldn't grow fond of him. Yeah, I'm fine. What's up all of a sudden? After high school, I went to culinary school, then trained under a renowned pastry chef, and finally opened my own shop. My brother and I couldn't be more different. Just a little favor to ask. I had a bad feeling about this while watching my daughter and husband play in the creek. I replied, if it's money you need, I don't have any. It sounded like a joke, but I was serious. What are you talking about? I would never ask my sister for money. He laughed heartily on the other end of the phone. I've never been able to understand what my brother is thinking. Actually, I was hoping you could take care of my daughter, Alyssa, for a while. It was an unexpected request. Alyssa, my niece, is a high schooler known for her mischief, and I've heard rumors about her being picked up by the police a few times recently. I doubt I could handle her. Why would my brother want to leave her with me? I was filled with anxiety. The thing is, my new wife is pregnant, and she's having a really tough time with morning sickness. I just got a transfer at work, and with the baby coming, we're planning to move to the new location as a family. But with my wife's condition, she can't take care of Alyssa. I knew my brother had remarried recently after his first wife passed away last year, but I hadn't met his new wife. I have a 1-year-old daughter and a busy job. I really don't have the capacity to look after a high school girl. We're starting summer vacation next week, and I just need you to take care of her for that period. Once the vacation's over, I'll come to pick her up. My wife often needs to rest because of her low blood pressure. I want to reduce her burden, and I can't leave a troublesome teenager alone at home. I understood my brother's situation. I had experienced severe morning sickness during my pregnancy, too. I didn't know what kind of person my new sister-in-law was, but moving and taking care of a niece during a difficult pregnancy is indeed too much. I wanted him to ask someone else, but I was probably his only option. Only for the summer vacation, right? Maybe I should help, considering my pregnant sister-in-law's condition. Absolutely. After the vacation, we'll be settled in our new place, and my wife's morning sickness should be better. I'll definitely come to pick her up. I hadn't seen my niece since my brother's first wife's funeral. However, we hadn't spoken a single word to each other at that time. I had no idea what to talk about or how to approach her. Now, despite my growing anxiety, we reluctantly agreed to take her in. The next day, my brother brought Alyssa to our house. I really appreciate this. I'll definitely thank you properly when I come to pick her up. With just those words, my brother left quickly. Alyssa stood at the entrance, looking down, not trying to make eye contact. Her hair was dyed brown, her face was made up, and she wore short pants revealing her slim legs with brightly colored nails on her fingers and toes. She looked like a typical rebellious high school girl. I had no idea how to start a conversation. Alyssa, come on in for now. I've prepared a room for you upstairs. You can leave your stuff there. I chose my words carefully, as if walking on eggshells, and tentatively spoke to her. Then she looked up. I have my own room. She looked at me with her big eyes, and I felt a bit tense under her gaze. Of course, there's a spare room you can use. It's empty, but there's a small TV, and you're welcome to use the closet however you like. Honestly, I hadn't seen my niece since my brother's first wife's funeral. However, we hadn't spoken a single word to each other at that time. I had no idea what to talk about or how to approach her. Now, despite my growing anxiety, we reluctantly agreed to take her in. The next day, my brother brought Alyssa to our house. I really appreciate this. I'll definitely thank you properly when I come to pick her up. With just those words, my brother left quickly. Alyssa stood at the entrance, looking down, not trying to make eye contact. Her hair was dyed brown, her face was made up, and she wore short pants revealing her slim legs with brightly colored nails on her fingers and toes. She looked like a typical rebellious high school girl. I had no idea how to start a conversation. Alyssa, come on in for now. I've prepared a room for you upstairs. You can leave your stuff there. I chose my words carefully, as if walking on eggshells, and tentatively spoke to her. Then she looked up. I have my own room. She looked at me with her big eyes, and I felt a bit tense under her gaze. Of course, there's a spare room you can use. It's empty, but there's a small TV, and you're welcome to use the closet however you like. Honestly, I was apprehensive about sharing a space with my niece, so I made sure she had her own room to give us both some separate space. Thank you, I'll make myself at home, Alyssa said, and went upstairs with her belongings. I glanced at the sandals she took off and was a bit surprised. They were neatly arranged at the edge of the entrance. That's when our cohabitation began. I don't have school or club activities because it's summer break, so I'm pretty free, Alyssa said, and took over the household chores, helping out our busy family. Besides, since I'm staying in this lovely house for free, the least I can do is help out. She even started helping with dinner preparations and made snacks for my daughter every day. Today I made pumpkin cookies. They're additive-free and low in sugar, so they're safe for her to eat a lot. Alyssa doted on my daughter, who quickly grew fond of her, and the snacks she made daily were not only cute, but also delicious, unbelievably professional for an amateur. Alyssa, known for her mischief and police encounters, showed none of that behavior. Instead, she was honest and kind. I felt ashamed for having been trapped in my preconceptions. When we were at work, Alyssa started taking care of my daughter, who usually went to daycare, was delighted to spend time with Alyssa at home. She even started calling Alyssa Big Sis. We were filled with gratitude towards her. Why would such a kind and responsible niece get into trouble with the police? Curious, I decided to ask her. Suddenly, Alyssa became silent and looked down. Her expression was sad. It seemed like she was hiding something. Then slowly she looked up and quietly began to reveal her past to me. The past this 15-year-old girl carried was far beyond my imagination, filled with sadness and hardship. Alyssa told me about the loss of her beloved mother to illness when she was in middle school. However, it was a disease that might have been cured if it had been properly treated early on. Her mother, my brother's wife, suffered in silence, unable to make my brother understand her illness. Alyssa had harbored resentment towards her father, my brother, for this. My real mom was so kind and taught me so many things. She taught me cooking and even manners so I wouldn't embarrass myself in society. I remembered the neatly arranged sandals Alyssa had left on her first day at our. Then suddenly she was brought to my place, feeling completely abandoned by her uncle and aunt. However, with us, Alyssa began to rediscover her true self. I remember hugging her as she talked about her past with a fleeting smile. That's why she was so happy when we prepared a room for her, giving her a place where she belonged. But over time, she only used her room for sleeping. At night, she spent most of her time playing with my daughter in the living room or helping me. What Alyssa truly sought wasn't solitude, but the warmth of a family. I felt helpless and angry at my brother's selfishness. Even after summer break, Dad might not come to pick me up. I might have to return to my lonely life, so can I enjoy my time here for now? Her words brought tears to my eyes. I didn't know how to respond. Even if her father came for her, she would likely return to her previous life, overwhelmed with emotion. I just held her close, and on the last day of summer break, her fears came true. Her father didn't show up. I wondered what my brother and his wife were thinking. Were they planning to come and pick her up? If so, were they preparing to welcome Alyssa into their new home? Were they intending to become a proper family and lead a peaceful life? Or did they have no intention of coming at all? I couldn't understand what they were thinking and called my brother numerous times. However, no matter how many times I called, he never answered. How selfish can he be? My frustration was growing. Meanwhile, Alyssa was quietly packing her things. Was she planning to leave today, but she had nowhere to go? I couldn't let her go back to the dangerous streets at night. Alyssa, stay one more night with us, I said. I can't get in touch with your dad, and you have nowhere to go, right? Then Alyssa, who had been silently packing, looked up and showed a bright smile. It seemed like her eyes were reflecting the light from the fluorescent lamps, probably tears. That night, I discussed it with my husband. We couldn't let Alyssa go, and we couldn't trust my brother and his wife. We wanted to take Alyssa in and live with her. My husband nodded in agreement with my thoughts. The next morning, we told Alyssa our decision. What? I stay here? I don't have to go back to that family. Alyssa's face was filled with joy, and she cried tears of happiness. Seeing her like this, I made up my mind. I would become her mother, I thought, as I firmly held Alyssa's hands. You can stay here forever, I said. At that moment, we became a family, and then the new school term started. Alyssa dyed her hair back to black, stopped wearing makeup and doing her nails, and went to school every day. When she came home, she would immediately start making snacks for my daughter. Her skills were excellent, so we decided to try selling Alyssa's homemade vegetable cookies at our store. They became very popular as healthy snacks and sold out quickly. My mom used to bake cookies for me. I loved the sweet smell from the oven, I reminisced, and often helped her. She was very interested in the sweets we made, so on weekends, we enjoyed baking with Alyssa. Wow, it smells so good. My daughter always came to the kitchen and couldn't resist sneaking some whipped cream and other treats. Alyssa laughed heartily at my daughter's actions. With our advice, Alyssa's baking skills improved rapidly. After graduating from high school, Alyssa enrolled in a pastry school, then gained experience at a famous bakery. I wholeheartedly supported Alyssa as she walked the same path as me. After completing her apprenticeship, Alyssa, who had worked tirelessly in our shop from morning till night with her savings, finally achieved her dream of independence. "Thank you, Mom, Dad, for everything," Alyssa said, a little embarrassed, and smiled. "Congratulations, you've worked hard. Let's continue to strive together as sister shops," I said, setting goals for ourselves. Alyssa, who set her own goals and worked hard toward her dreams, was our pride. My husband nodded in agreement. After that, Alyssa developed not only delicious but also stylish and cute sweets that made people happy just by looking at them. She quickly joined the ranks of famous bakeries. She received daily interviews from TV and magazines, and her creations spread across the country through social media. People even came from afar to visit our shop. Every day there was a line forming in front of our shop before opening. One day my husband and I were helping prepare for the opening at my daughter's shop as Christmas approached. We paid attention not only to product development, but also to decorating the store and designing paper bags. We pastry chefs put a lot of effort into this time of the year. The combination of rich cheese and refreshing strawberries was very popular, and people lined up from early in the morning just to get it. Alyssa carefully arranged the products, my husband cleaned up the kitchen, and I wiped the glass showcase. At that moment, a man's voice said, "Excuse me, sorry. We still have about 10 minutes until we open. Would you mind waiting outside?" I replied, turning my face toward the source of the voice. In that instant, my hand stopped wiping the glass, and I froze. "Hey, long time no see. How have you been?" The man was my brother, who hadn't come to pick up Alyssa for 7 years and had been out of touch. Alyssa seemed to be at a loss for words, too. There was a brief silence. "Alyssa, I'm sorry for making you feel lonely all this time, but you don't have to worry anymore. Mommy and Daddy are here to pick you up. From now on, we'll be together forever," my brother said. From behind my brother, his wife appeared, raising her voice. This was the first time I had seen my brother's wife's face. Until now, she had never done anything motherly, and now she was suddenly claiming to be Mommy. Both of them appeared so casually, as if nothing had happened. I looked at them with contempt, surpassing anger. What on earth did they want? "Charlotte, don't make such a scary face. Thank you for taking care of Alyssa all this time. Sorry for being late to pick her up. Alyssa will live with our family from now on," my brother's wife said. What a thoughtless thing to say. They had no idea what Alyssa had gone through and how hard she had worked for the past 7 years. They knew nothing, and now they were talking about our family. Rage boiled up inside me. "Alyssa, you've become quite impressive. You truly are my daughter. Let's live happily with Mom and Dad from now on," my brother continued. Alyssa, who had been twisting her face at my brother's eerie attitude she had never shown before, finally spoke. Who are you? If you have nothing to do with this shop, please leave right away." Alyssa turned her back to my brother and his wife as she said that. "Don't say that. We apologize for being late to pick you up, but we've had our own difficulties too. It's been tough in many ways. Now that you're grown up, you'll understand, won't you?" my brother pleaded. In response to my brother's words, Alyssa turned around and cast a cold gaze at him. "We've been struggling financially. Even her child, born 7 years ago, is currently in foster care." Truth is, I used a bit of the company's money and got caught, leading to losing my job. On top of that, we're in debt, and there's no way we can support our child, my brother confessed. Desperate, they had seen an article about Elisa's success in a magazine, and out of financial desperation, they approached her. Enough of your selfishness. If you're in need of money, then both of you should work from morning till night. What you're doing is nothing to be proud of as parents, is it? I couldn't contain my anger and raised my voice unintentionally. In response, my brother sneered as if mocking me. Don't get so angry. Besides, this is a matter between me and Elisa. You're not involved. Don't interfere. Then, Elisa placed her hand on my back and stepped forward. Her touch seemed to convey gratitude. That's right. Just as you say, I'm no longer the person I used to be back then. I've grown up. I'll take responsibility for my own life, so I won't be living with you. You're disrupting the business. Please leave, Elisa said with a single statement, turning my brother and his wife red-faced. What kind of attitude is that towards your parents? It's just that we were a little late to pick you up. You're quick to act high and mighty once we say something nice. We hoped you had grown into someone who could listen to your parents and their expectations, but we're disappointed. My brother's harsh words echoed in the shop. Why should I listen obediently to my parents who had always been unreasonable? I couldn't help but feel irritated. My husband, having heard the commotion, came out of the kitchen. What parents? What family? They've never done anything remotely like parents. It's audacious of them to say something like that, my husband added. Now, Elisa turned around and looked at us. They are neither my parents nor anything of the sort. You've walked alongside me as I grew up, always supporting me. You created a warm family atmosphere and gave me a place to belong. You taught me the joy of living. Mom, Dad, you are my real parents. I plan to use the money I earn at this shop to repay you, Elisa said with a gentle expression, smiling. Then, with a sharp look at my brother and his wife, she added, So, outsiders, please leave right now. We're about to open for business. If you intend to linger here any longer, I'll contact the police for obstructing our operations. In a low voice, Elisa said, Don't make a scene like this. I was deeply moved by Elisa's words. We had raised her as our real daughter all along, and we would continue to consider her our daughter. There was no doubt about that. Don't raise your voice any further. Leave quickly. If you ever dare to show your faces in front of us again, we will definitely call the police. You won't see us again, I declared. With that, my brother and his wife roughly closed the shop's door and left. We breathed a sigh of relief, and on schedule, Elisa reopened her shop for business. It was supposed to be the end of those two, however. This was just the beginning of relentless harassment from my brother and his wife. The following day, I received an email from my brother on my smartphone. The email contained a terrifying message that seemed like a downright threat. It stated that unless Elisa was returned to my brother and his wife, they would spread negative rumors about her shop and make it impossible for her to continue her business. I immediately called Elisa's shop, and she informed me that a similar letter had been placed in front of her store. I'll burn this kind of letter. Even if they spread bad publicity about the shop, I won't be deterred. I won't be defeated by such foolish harassment, Elisa said with determination. Elisa continued to ignore the repeated threatening letters. Even though she knew they were harassment, receiving such harsh threats daily would take a toll on anyone's spirits. But Elisa remained steadfast with a determined attitude. At this point, it seemed like Elisa was waiting for the right opportunity to strike back at my brother and his wife. Finally, that chance arrived. One day, a journalist who had previously featured Elisa in a magazine visited her shop. They had received a tip about Elisa and came to verify the truth. The tipster had accused Alyssa of abandoning her parents who had supported her throughout her life once she became famous as a pastry chef. The tip also claimed that Alyssa had profited from cakes developed using her parents' ideas, keeping all the money for herself. Even when her parents were in financial distress, Alyssa was shocked. She knew exactly who the malicious tipster was even without being told. However, Alyssa didn't waver in the face of such a malicious tip. Instead, she saw it as an opportunity to fight back. "I will tell you the whole truth." With those words, Alyssa began to recount her past to the journalist. She spoke about her real mother's illness and her father's remarriage, the mistreatment she had endured after her father's remarriage, her troubled teenage years when she felt like she had no place, and how she met us during high school. She talked about her journey into the world of pastry making, her struggles, and the bond she formed with us as a couple. Alyssa also spoke about my brother and his wife's sudden appearance in her life, driven by financial motives. The journalist listened intently, hanging on to every word. If you truly love someone, would you abandon your own daughter? And isn't it the act of a real parent to show up only when it's convenient, ask for money, and resort to spreading such rumors when denied? Alyssa's story came to an end with those words. The journalist had tears in their eyes and commended Alyssa for her efforts. They decided to feature Alyssa's shop once again in a special article titled "The Shop of a Young Charismatic Pastry Chef Who Overcame a Harsh Childhood." The following month, a magazine with this headline on the cover appeared in bookstores and convenience stores nationwide, bringing even more attention to Alyssa. Simultaneously, numerous magazine journalists descended upon my brother and his wife. They were bombarded with questions about their mistreatment of Alyssa, embezzlement of company funds, a life burdened by debt, and their abandonment of their child. The couple could no longer step outside their home. Furthermore, the only person who had supported the brother and his wife, her parents and relatives, were shocked and furious when they learned the truth. Everyone was appalled by the couple's inhumane actions, and they decided to cut all ties with them. My brother and his wife found themselves isolated from society, living a quiet life while constantly worrying about the public's judgment. We thought that Alyssa's retaliation had come to an end and peace had returned to our lives. However, our battle was far from over. At this point, my brother and his wife had begun harboring incomprehensible resentment towards her mom. All the shop's windows were broken. There were glass shards everywhere inside. One morning, I received a call from Melissa. What a terrible act of harassment! Immediately, I thought of my brother and his wife. "Alyssa, don't touch anything. It's dangerous. Call the police right away. I'm heading over there now." There were security cameras installed inside the shop. The culprit should be easily identifiable. I rushed to Alyssa's shop. Upon arrival, I found the police conducting an investigation. As expected, the security cameras had captured the culprit, and it turned out to be my brother's wife. My brother's wife was promptly taken into police custody, and the interrogation began. "Who do you think you are? I'll destroy that arrogant girl's shop right away. Next time, I'll even set the whole place on fire due to Alyssa's counterattack." My brother and his wife, who had been erased from society, were now overwhelmed by an unfamiliar sense of alienation, causing them to lose their composure. My brother's wife had developed a deep resentment towards Alyssa and committed the act openly. If you're so upset, try using your own money to fix it. Well, you don't have that kind of amount, do you? Maybe you should borrow some money and experience the same hardships as us. However, the police didn't let my brother's wife's shallow thinking slide. With a snort, the police officer began speaking coldly. "This is a case of property damage and interference with business, both of which can result in imprisonment or fines. Furthermore, due to this incident, the shop's merchandise couldn't be sold and repairs were needed, causing Alyssa to lose income. In all these aspects, compensation would be demanded. At this point, she finally realized the gravity of her actions. Her arrogant attitude changed, and she suddenly became smaller in demeanor. For the debt-ridden couple, there was no way they could afford the fines, so the brother's wife reluctantly entered the cold walls of prison. While Alyssa and I were cleaning up the shop's phone rang. It was my brother. "Don't mess around. It's because of you. You failed. My wife got caught by the police because of you. You're the one who should go to jail for being a delinquent. Either switch places with my wife now, or if you don't want your past crimes to be exposed, contact the police and say that the culprit is someone else." We were already fed up with such unreasonable threats from my brother. "It's your own doing. If you have the time to make these threatening phone calls, then find a job and try to pay off your debts. You can't keep relying on other people's money forever." Unable to counter Alyssa's rational words, my brother finally shouted incoherently, "Shut up! Shut up! Don't interfere with your parents like this, you ungrateful daughter. I'll send you to hell." On the other end of the phone, my brother was breathing heavily. "You're not my parents or anything like that. You abandoned me 7 years ago. You're strangers now. Do you think you can get away with these threats? I still have all the letters left in front of the shop. I've recorded this phone call too. If you continue to harass us, you'll face the appropriate consequences. You'll be charged with a new crime called extortion." Then from the receiver came my brother's growl, exactly as Alyssa says. "If you don't want to increase your charges any further, cut ties with us, work hard on your own, and repay your debts." With that, we hung up the phone. 7 years ago, Alyssa was a high school student with a record of 5 delinquency cases, and I didn't know how to handle her. To see her grow so resiliently, taking her own path, becoming independent, and distancing herself from her father was truly impressive. "You've really become a remarkable person. You've worked so hard." I looked at Alyssa. "Well, I'm my mother's daughter after all," Alyssa said, blushing a little, looking shy. Finally, my brother disappeared from our lives according to rumors he couldn't find a steady job and resorted to daily labor to make ends meet. Unable to afford an apartment, he spent each night without a stable place to stay. Every day he hid from debt collectors, wearing down his mental state. And gradually he seemed to forget about his wife's existence. Once his wife, who had completed her prison sentence, was released, there was no one to greet her and she had nowhere to go. However, my husband's wife dreamed of living with my brother again, unaware of the harsh reality. Through the tiny window in the prison wall, she projected her hope into the faint light. On the other hand, our shop, thanks to the featured article about Alyssa, saw even more customers. We were busy every day, which we were grateful for, and this spring we announced a collaborative product with Alyssa's shop. It was a cheesecake. When you cut the cake, the inside turned into a chocolate flavor, captivating many women. It spread nationwide and became a massive hit. Alyssa still took care of my daughter, and my daughter admired Alyssa. The two of them were like sisters despite the age difference. Then came some wonderful news. Alyssa was getting married. Her partner was none other than a male journalist she had met during an interview about her shop. After learning about Alyssa's tumultuous past through the interview, the journalist continued to support her. He began visiting the shop in his free time and even helped out on his days off. He had advised Alyssa on how to handle the harassment from my brother and his wife and to keep evidence of the threats. Gradually, the two of them grew closer, becoming partners in each other's lives. My husband and I were invited to attend the wedding as Alyssa's parents. It was the happiest news. My husband was nervous about walking Alyssa down the aisle. And there was one more thing Alyssa had requested of us, to create the wedding cake. A one-of-a-kind cake filled with our memories, their future journey, and happiness. I was already brainstorming ideas